some women hate men simply because they're men. So of course, these women aren't going to respect you no matter what you do or don't do. But as Christian men who are looking for a spouse, these types of women really aren't our concern. Rather, we want to focus on those godly Christian women who actually want to respect a man. And as a point of clarification, of course, as a Christian woman, she should be respectful to really anyone in her life, just as a Christian man should be respectful, because that's our character as Christians. But I'm talking about something different. Rather than being respectful, which we can all do to anyone, because again, that comes from within us, I'm talking about having respect for someone, meaning admiring them or seeing qualities in that person that you find valuable and that you like. Therefore, here are 5 things that make a Christian single woman respect you. Number 1, a woman respects a man who doesn't tolerate disrespect. You get what you tolerate. That's an important principle in life and in relationships, and certainly in this conversation we're having here. So a woman comes into a relationship, a good woman, with a desire to want to be respectful, to want to respect the man that she likes and is showing interest in, and that's showing interest in her. But the whole point of the dating process is to gauge whether or not these desires can be fulfilled. She's going to have to test the man to see if he does possess those qualities that she respects. And some of those tests are going to be healthy and non-sinful, and she's just going to gauge and look at his life. But in sin, we end up testing each other in sinful ways at times, again, because we're sinful. So eventually that woman's going to be rude to you. Eventually that woman's going to take you for granted somehow. Eventually that woman's going to speak to you in some type of way that is not what you desire from a woman. And to be completely clear here, men do the same thing to women because men are just as sinful. But here's the thing. In those moments where those types of things happen, she is going to see how you respond. And if you allow disrespect, you will continue to get disrespect. If you don't tolerate disrespect in your life, then those types of people will exit themselves out. And those people who just made a genuine mistake and actually are respectful and love you will correct themselves, because we all need that at times. So to be clear, I'm not saying that you need to get harsh and mean and dominate her when she tries to do those things to you. I'm not saying you need to fight her and win. Rather, I'm saying that you need to be strong enough as a man to address any disrespect that comes from her, because if you don't, that's not good for her, and it's not good for you. It's not good for the relationship, and she knows you don't really possess those qualities of leadership that she and you are going to need in the relationship. So one place in Scripture where you can see this principle play out is in a slightly different context, but the principle is really the same. At one point, Paul is teaching Timothy, who's younger, how to deal with disrespect from older people. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. So just as Paul told Timothy to not allow disrespect, to address it, to show in your actions that you're worthy of respect, because again, you get what you tolerate, so too should a man have this mindset in his relationship with women. And again, to be ultra clear, if I was making this video for women, I would say the same thing to them. You get what you tolerate. Eventually, a man is going to treat you in a sinful way to some degree. Of course, there are levels to this, and if there are certain sins that you just, you got to just say, that's too much. I got to go. We can't date anymore. But in normal relationships, disrespect happens because we're all sinful. And to her, I would say the same thing. You got to address that. You get what you tolerate. Number 2, a woman respects a man who can change his mind or apologize if needed when she shows him that he's wrong. So a lot of people believe that to be a good leader, you never make mistakes. But that's unrealistic and not really the mark of a good leader. Rather, a better mark of a good leader is to someone who tries not to make mistakes, but when they do, they're humble enough to admit it, to change course, change their mind, apologize if needed, and do better. So a lot of guys feel like if they admit that they were wrong, they're going to lose the woman's respect. But actually, the opposite is true. If you are stubborn and unwilling to admit when you're wrong, when she clearly shows you that you're wrong, that's actually going to cause her to lose respect for you. According to Proverbs 9:8-9, the mark of a fool is being stubborn, and the mark of a wise man is a willingness to receive correction when it's accurate correction. And this will also help her to trust when you are sticking to your guns, so to speak, and you do really feel like you're right in this instance, and maybe she is the one who needs to be corrected. When you have shown a pattern of humility to admit when you're wrong, that allows her to trust you more when you are pointing out something in her that needs to be corrected. Number 3, a woman respects a man who fulfills his masculine duties that don't even relate to her in the relationship. So some guys treat the woman really well, but they neglect other important areas of their life and they lack in those areas. And a woman eventually loses respect for a man like that because as men, there's more to what makes us a godly man than just how we treat a woman. That's just one factor. That's one part of our masculinity. For example, if a man doesn't honor his father and mother, and she sees that, that's going to cause her to lose disrespect for him, even if he's treating her really well. And, to get into that example, that doesn't mean you obey your parents as an adult because you're a man. You're supposed to be able to do what you want. It doesn't mean that you ignore abuse from your parents and, allow that to continue and all those types of things. But nonetheless, Scripture says honor your father and mother because of the office that they hold in your life, and that's going to look different for the situation you're in. But a woman's going to see that interaction and make an assessment about you. So a woman will respect the man who's masculine and responsible in all areas of his life, not just when she's watching. Number 4, a woman respects a man who's respected by other men. A mature Christian woman is humble enough and wise enough to know that only a man knows what it really takes to be a man. Likewise, a man should be able to say the same thing about women. Only a woman really knows what it takes to be a godly woman. So a woman, a wise, godly, humble Christian woman, is going to defer some of her assessment of a man to other men, because she needs to know that other men validate him as a man, to say, yeah, that guy is a good guy, because she knows a man has an ability to do that in a way that she doesn't. Just like a woman has a capability of seeing other women in ways that men don't. So a woman respects the man who's respected by other men. As it says of the Proverbs 31 woman's husband, her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. And number 5, a woman respects a man who pursues her, especially when he does so in a non-anxious, fearful way. Women respect men who pursue them. Even if that woman ends up rejecting that guy's pursuit, she still does have a level of respect for his efforts. However, just pursuing isn't quite enough, because a lot of guys pursue and they work up the courage to do it, but they're so fearful, they're so anxious that it ends up making the woman feel nervous around the man because he's nervous. And so while she might respect his efforts, really what ends up happening is that she feels bad for him, because women tend to be more compassionate. And since you are struggling so much and fearful and anxious and you worked up the courage, it almost, gets that response of, aw, poor guy. I have to say no, but, that's so sweet. That's not respect. That's compassion. That's, feeling bad for you. So really, a woman really enjoys when a man can pursue her and not be overly anxious and fearful and worried about it all. Bottom line, a woman wants to feel safe around the guy that she ends up with, not nervous. If she senses your strength as a man is dependent on her making you feel strong by accepting your pursuit, she will reject you and not respect you. Rather, if she knows you are strong and your identity is dependent on Christ and not on her response to your pursuit, she will respect you and is more likely to accept your pursuit of her. For more biblical relationship advice tailored for Christian single men, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That's something I'm going to be talking a lot about here, amongst other topics that relate to men. I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com. Until next time, God bless.